So, what will you wish for?
What is your heart's desire?
In 3,000 Years of Longing, we meet a woman who frees a genie from a lamp. Now the problem is that she doesn't want any wishes, she just wants to hear the story of the genie's adventures across time in this visually spectacular but emotionally inert movie from director George Miller.
I'm beginning to wish we'd never met.
No, don't say that!
Hello, Mr. Harker here. There's a young lady who seems quite distressed.
The Invitation tells the story where a young woman is invited to meet some long-lost relatives in England, only to find out that they have monstrous plans for her. Now it's a fight for survival in this otherwise by-the-numbers horror thriller.
I want to go home.
But this is your home.
I found him. Samaritan.
Samaritan died 25 years ago. You think you live across from a superhero? Do you have a therapist, kid?
Finally, Samaritan on Amazon Prime stars Sylvester Stallone as an average Joe who just might be a former superhero who once disappeared. Now an obsessed kid wants to know why, and he forces him to come out of retirement and save a city that desperately needs a hero.
Are you okay?
I'm cool.
And that's what's new this week at the movies. I'm Sean McBride, the movie guy.
All right, we'll talk about some of the movies this week. We've got 3 on the agenda. A couple options for folks. I was saying I'm so excited because I watched all the trailers.
So, which trailer did you like in particular?
Okay, the one I liked the most was Invitation.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, just because it actually made me gasp when I was watching it.
So there is kind of a fascinating thing that goes on with horror, and people don't particularly recognize this.
Okay.
But women drive horror movies, right? And so when you make a horror film, you need to get the ladies interested. And the interesting thing on the horror films is that lately we've been seeing single female protagonists who are being thrown into situations where they should just be the damsel in distress,
Sure.
and instead they turn out to be more than capable of defending themselves. So this is the case of an American. She does it's kind of like a DNA match, and she finds out she has all this family in England that she didn't know about, and they happen to be having a wedding, and she gets invited, and she shows up, and she's initially very seduced by the lord of the manor and the English countryside and all of that. And, well, the family has some nefarious plans for her. Some monstrous plans for her. I'm torn. I don't know how much I can say about spoiling it, because it does seem like the movie is trying to hide what's actually going on.
Oh, okay.
But in the trailer, we see that some of these people have fangs. So I mean, it's pretty. Yeah. So look, it's a by the numbers horror film. I do think it's well shot. I do think Natalie Emmanuel's pretty good here. I like these type of films. I do like the kind of the seduction of the English aristocracy. But in the end, it's just a monster movie, and it really doesn't rise much above that. That's funny. There's a shot there of her getting a manicure. I will argue that the scariest scene in this is her getting a manicure, because every time they play with the cuticle or whatever, you hear this overwrought sound design. It's like, and it's like, ooh, why would anyone get a manicure if it's that loud and that tense and stuff? But no, it's fine. It's nothing special. But if you like horror movies, you'd like to be scared, there's just enough jump scares. I think you'll be fine.
I was going to say, this is the part where I was watching. Oh, they cut it off. Okay, they didn't show it. But that was the part where I was like, oh my gosh. So maybe that's why I liked it. Also, like you mentioned, the woman who's kind of, you expect her to not be able to put up a fight, and then she kind of does.
She certainly does, yeah. There's a nice little end of the, with her and her bestie, and it's like, oh, I kind of like to see that movie too. So there's moments here.
Yeah, okay. So what would you rate that?
Oh, I'd give it 2 out of 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so half bad, half good. We'll say it like that.
This is one that when it comes on home DVD or home streaming, you certainly will want to watch it then.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's worth a trip to the theater. So.
Okay, fair enough. Next one that I thought was interesting was the 3,000 years?
3,000 Years of Longing.
Yeah.
This is Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton, and I think it's funny because he's a genie, he's a djinn, and she's stuck in a hotel room with him. It's Idris Elba half naked for half the time, and she can't figure out what she wants to wish for. And I think a lot of people thought, I have some ideas what they would wish for. So, look, it's an interesting story. It's George Miller, who is a very good filmmaker. He last made Mad Max: Fury Road, so we like what he does. But he also did Babe, Pig in the City.
Okay.
He also, I mean, he's a guy that's Happy Feet. He's made a lot of really a diverse quantity of movies here. So look, Tilda Swinton plays this academic. She finds this genie. He wants to give her 3 wishes. She's a narratologist. She studies the structure and the meaning of storytelling, whatever. So she just wants to hear a story. And it becomes him telling her his story, how he got trapped in the bottle. And I think that's kind of fascinating stuff. I mean, that's good. But I certainly think the visuals are amazing on this. George Miller obviously had a lot of money to spend here. But I think ultimately for a story about storytelling, I think the story is not that great. And, a lot of times it's just Tilda Swinton sitting there listening. That's not very dynamic, not very active. In the end, it does turn into something. I kind of like the ending, but by the time we got there, I kind of checked out already. So visually quite appealing. I do think both Swinton and Ilba are pretty good in this thing. I like their acting. I just didn't like the story that much. So another kind of a hit and miss film. Big swing though, and I appreciate the big swing.
Okay, fair enough. Thought it was just an interesting little twist on Genie in the Bottle a little bit there.
Yeah.
And then our final one this morning, streaming
on Amazon Prime. It's Samaritan. It's Sylvester Stallone. He plays seemingly he's just a garbage man, and this kid starts to realize that there's something special about this guy, and he may actually be a superhero who, in theory, had died in this big explosion where he was fighting his brother Nemesis, who was the bad guy. And anyway, so we find out that maybe this is actually him, and the kid is trying to figure out, why he's retired and what's going on here. It's got an interesting twist at the end, but it's really one of those dystopians where you live in a city and crime is running rampant, and it's got some silly stuff in it that I don't think works all that great. But once again, I think all these movies this week are kind of 2 out of 4s. They're kind of mediocre efforts. If they were better, they probably would have been released a little earlier in the summer. But
This one I also thought kind of a little bit different than what you normally see when it comes to superhero movies. Haven't heard of this one, like this superhero specifically.
They're making this up. I mean, they made up a brand new city, Granite City, and Sylvester Stallone is playing. It's fine. It's a pretty basic superhero idea.
And the little kid, I was watching the trailer and I was like, he looks really familiar. Euphoria. Have you ever seen Euphoria? Yeah, that's Fez.
Is it really? Okay.
Right? Is that his name? No. What's the little? It's not Fez.
The one that was the drug dealer's little brother,
the
whatever.
sidekick.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I can't remember his name
right.
either. But that is him. Huh. Okay, so out of all of them, best one?
Probably 3,000 Years of Longing, just for the visuals, because visually it's quite stunning. But best one is, we're waiting for another month or so.
We'll be holding out for that one.
Yeah.
Ashtray. Jarrett, our director, just told me that's his name in Euphoria.
Okay.
There we go. So now we know the mystery of the morning. All right, Sean, of course, thank you for coming in this morning. And that's a look at what you can see either in theaters or streaming. Plenty of options. And we'll talk to Chad here in just a little bit, get you a look at your weather.